Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 drama. Max Verstappen has reiterated his frustration at the number of street races that Formula 1 are putting on, especially next year's calendar, stating there are far too many, there should only be a few per season, an opinion that many are agreeing with, especially based on the way next year's calendar is structured. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty to dive into today over the Christmas period. A lot of updates to bring you guys. Quickly on the Ferrari front, the 2023 power unit has apparently achieved the test benches that are required for Ferrari, and also stating, I believe, that the chassis is good to go as well. So apparently the 2023 chassis for Ferrari has passed the crash tests required. So at this point in the season, or at the end of the year basically, most of the work on next year's car is done for most of the teams, and we know that Ferrari are revealing their car, I believe, on February the 14th, Valentine's Day. We'll see if it looks as good as the F175 did. And even speaking of Ferrari, apparently McLaren believe Ferrari are loving life right now. Now, there's a lot of drama in that Ferrari camp. We know the Fred Vasseur in Mattia Binotto out thing is not necessarily has gone down so well with certain individuals there, and also just adds another element of chaos to their camp. But in the long term, it might work out to be beneficial for them, especially if their car is great, as the rumor has it, it probably will be yet again. And even, I think it's what Andrea Stella, right, the new top man team principal at McLaren, said that from his understanding, Ferrari are very happy with their car. So we'll see if that translates into reality. But often teams say that about their rivals, just to, to make it look better when they're actually better than they expect to be, because for they themselves, McLaren say he's expecting a difficult start, but optimistic for the second part of the season. And also they've confirmed they're not worried about losing Lando Norris, but it's got to be said that if this season doesn't go well, if next season doesn't go well for Norris, his contract is, only a few years long at this point. And look, 2026 new engine regs, Audi will be knocking on the door. And of course, by that time, Hamilton might be gone. Mercedes might want Norris there. So McLaren have to prove quickly here, because, performances like Norris has given the last few years can't be replicated in a car that isn't particularly good before he's going to seek new options very soon indeed. They're not worried, but, I would be if I was them, to be perfectly honest. Let's talk about Red Bull then. So Christian Horner ready for Santa, he says, Red Bull, here he goes. There's been some drama as well about cost cap and other things as well over the last few days. But one of the key things that has been a question here with Sebastian Vettel retiring is whether Vettel returns to Formula 1. Now, many drivers, I think even Hamilton said, well, look, Alonso's retired before, then he's made the return. He wouldn't be surprised if Vettel comes back at some point. As I say, with the Audi thing from 2026, there have been some rumours as to whether Audi, German manufacturer, might want some German drivers in their partnership with Sauber, and therefore might say, hey, 24, 25, let's bring in Mick Schumacher, let's bring in Sebastian Vettel if he wants to return, and that could be a pretty fun partnership. Now, the other alternative is, given Vettel's history at Red Bull, is that as Helmut Marko says, top guy or top advisor for Red Bull, Sebastian Vettel always obsessed with data and has the potential to work in a Red Bull management position. Goes on to say that for now, let's let him plant a few trees, enjoy his time away from the sport with his family and all this type of stuff. But he goes on to say, look, it's not impossible he can come back in a top management position. So an interesting prospect there is in the coming years, maybe Vettel returning to Red Bull in a management role could be not off the cards at all. Now, from a past number one man at Red Bull to a present number one man, Max Verstappen's thoughts on street circuits. And he's given these thoughts throughout the season, certainly around sprint races and the like, not particularly liking them, but certainly on sprint races as well. This gained a lot of traction over the last couple of days, and I think for good reason, because I do believe a lot of people feel this over the last couple of seasons, that the way Formula 1 is going down the route of, to go to certain countries and moving away from some of the traditional circuits that we have, especially with France being gone in Paul Ricard, the potential of Belgium to be gone as well at Spa-Francorchamps, like, a lot of the classic circuits are getting axed in favour of newer street circuits that don't really have the best design for racing. And as Verstappen goes on to say very explicitly, a Formula 1 car is not designed to drive on a straight track. I think we're getting more and more street circuits, which I don't enjoy in a Formula 1 car. Going on to say the following, a Formula 1 car comes alive in the proper high-speed corners. If you ask any F1 driver what their favourite corners are on any track, they'll tell you Cops, they'll tell you Maggots and Beckett's, they'll tell you certain elements of tracks where the car is absolutely on its limit at 150 plus miles an hour around a high-speed corner. That's where the F1 car is at its best, that's where it feels at its best, and many street circuits don't allow that to be possible a lot of the time. Some street circuits are okay, others aren't so much, and as he goes on to say, I understand a few street circuits every year, it's exciting, blah, 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 because, you get exciting qualifyings, the cars are very much on edge. If you hit hit the wall, that could be race over. So, there are some elements of excitement, but he says, look, it's good as a kind of a one-off thing, or at least a few a year, but not as too many. As he goes on to say, it's better to have old school tracks like Suzuka as well. A qualifying lap around there is so much more fun than at a random street circuit. It's not a happy man about really any of these street circuits, and that was the quote here. So let's look at the calendar and see if Verstappen has a point, because I certainly think he does. So here we go. This is the 2023 calendar. Now, definitely of note here, of course, is that China is gone, so not on the calendar any longer. We'll see in a second here that Turkey is the likely replacement. So at least both of those are proper circuits. But here we go. So starting in Bahrain. Now, there's all the talk about, investment from certain countries, and therefore they go and drive in those countries now, whether the tracks are good or not. I'm not a massive fan of Bahrain personally, but at least it's a proper circuit. Bahrain to start the season. Then Saudi Arabia in Jeddah. Now, in my opinion, Jeddah is a phenomenal track, but it is nonetheless a street circuit and, carries a high degree of danger and risk every time we go there, to be honest. So, for many different reasons, of course. So Saudi Arabia, technically a street circuit, of course, in Jeddah, but one of the better ones, I would argue. Australia, similar thing around Melbourne Park. It is a street circuit. It is just a regular road most of the year, but it does turn into, I think, one of the better tracks, at least for qualifying. Nowadays, maybe for racing, they might have to add 4 DRS zones next year to actually make it good for racing. So, Australia, I think, is quite nice, but it might not be the best for racing, I think, understandably, but it doesn't feel as much like a street circuit as some others do. But already, Saudi Arabia, Australia, already technically street circuits. Baku, obviously a street circuit, not one of my favourites at all, although people like it for the massively long straight. Then Miami, part of this track, I believe this back straight, or maybe this curved part here, I think that's part of an actual road, but some of it has been designed from the ground up, so not really a street circuit. Of course, Imola, not a street circuit, traditional circuit. Monaco, very much so a street circuit, one of the OG street circuits that nowadays is just absolutely awful with these current cars. And as Verstappen says, are there any corners at Monaco that the drivers find fun or are really entertaining to watch, really? Okay, there's the swimming pool section, that's pretty good, high speed left right hander. Outside of that, there's nothing really else that's particularly exciting about that race anyway. Qualifying is good, of course, and I don't mind having Monaco on the calendar if there are few and far between other street circuits. So the first couple of weeks of the season are stacked with street circuits, then it opens up a bit. So you've got Spain, the circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia, then you've got Canada, circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which technically, I believe, parts of this circuit are usually just used as roads, but I think it is more of a purpose-built racetrack than a street circuit, I would say. But, maybe up for interpretation, not really sure. Then you get the proper circuits here. So, this whole run from Canada, Austria, Silverstone, Budapest, Belgium, of course, then Zandvoort in Netherlands, then Monza in Italy. All of this is proper circuits. Then you go back into the abyss of some of these, at least. So Singapore, right now, they're probably going to improve Singapore next year with this section here at the end. I think they're going to get rid of this. It's going to be more of a straight, so it's going to be probably marginally better next year. But again, Singapore is basically just 90-degree corners. You go down a straight, you turn left. You go down a straight, you turn right. Now, I don't hate it, to be honest. It's actually quite fun, but, it's not really great for Formula 1 cars, let's be honest here, and we know what happens when you try and overtake. It doesn't always happen. Compare that to Suzuka, an absolutely beautiful circuit on the weekend after. That is, obviously Verstappen used that as a particular example of having a great time around. Then you've got Qatar, indeed, a purpose-built track. Not maybe the best we've ever seen, but I suppose at least it's not a street circuit. Then you've got Kota, which I think is a fantastic track, to be honest. There's that. Mexico, I don't personally like, but, and parts of it, feel a bit gimmicky, especially that stadium section. So, not a massive fan of it, but nonetheless not a street circuit. Then Brazil, fantastic, Interlagos. And then you finish out the season next year with Las Vegas. And this is, I think, where some of the frustrations arise from Verstappen is he's like, well, hang on a second, lads. We've got all these street circuits at the start of the season. Jeddah was brought in recently. Of course, Baku's been here a while. Australia's been here a while. And Monaco's been here a while. But a few of these other ones, Jeddah coming through, Singapore's always been there. And now you've got Las Vegas as well. You throw into the mix as another street circuit. He's not going to be a happy man about that. I think understandably so. It doesn't look like a great track, let's be perfectly honest. And then Abu Dhabi, that's never been a great circuit, but has improved decently, I think, in the last couple of seasons. So does Verstappen have a point here? There probably isn't as many, honestly, looking at this as I maybe thought there were, but nonetheless, it's, maybe not the most sexy calendar you're ever going to find, and his frustrations, I do think, have a certain degree of merit. Now, speaking quickly of China, we know that China's gone, and the rumour has it that's going around the last few days, we heard initially it was going to be Portimao in Portugal. Now, apparently it's going to be Turkey. Istanbul Park will be back again, the site of many great races across history, so no problem really with that one, if that is going to be the race to replace China, as is the present rumour. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Quick note here from Aston Martin, thought it was kind of spicy. Aston Martin is is committed to not doing things in a Mercedes or a Red Bull way, but to find a better path instead. So I do like this optimism coming out of the Aston Martin camp. There has been a lot of good talking points coming out of this camp and from Alonso and from others that they really have high expectations and ambitions. Whether Alonso will still be driving by the time, if ever, those ambitions are realised remains to be seen, but nonetheless they are trying to do it the right way, which is quite exciting. Also, quick note, as we did talk about Vettel and Verstappen and Mick Schumacher, these it's been noticed here, prime off-season content, that Sebastian Vettel now follows 5 people on Instagram, one of which being Mats Hummels. I thought was interesting. I mean, understandably, I guess, due to German heritage and stuff, but he follows Hamilton, good friend of his, of course, nowadays. Wasn't the case back in the day. Verstappen, reigning world champion, and then Charles Leclerc, good friend, and also Mick Schumacher, you know, Padawan, protege, whatever you guys want to say. Thought that was quite nice to look at as well. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.